Joining us now, a man you all know, thanks to his work at CBS and NFL Network, and pretty much anywhere sports are played. Charles Davis is with us. How are you, Charles?
Stats, I'm doing well. It's so great to talk with you. Thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. And I can't believe it. Super Bowl week, right? And isn't it the craziest thing? Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it's the same for all of us. We can't wait for the season to get started. We get into the middle of it, we're like, my goodness, we still have X number of weeks to go. And then we're like, oh, it's Super Bowl week. Where did the season go? And I think that's where we are right now.
That's the worst part for me is like, we've got the game on Sunday and then that's it. There's a long off season before we get football again. It's kind of depressing.
Yeah, I think we all kind of go through it, but I will say this, over the years, I've really enjoyed the break, not just because, we get a chance to recharge, retool, get better, all those other things, but I do like the anticipation. I do like the fact that there is a lull, that it goes away for a while. Although in our lifetime, as you know, football's becoming 24/7, 365 business. All right. When I was a little guy, all right, growing up in New Paltz, New York, my lovely hometown and the place that helped create me, baseball was the big deal. Okay. You would take your, in New Paltz, New York, you weren't playing baseball in November, December, January. So you take the ball, put it in your glove, oil up the mitt, put the ball in the glove, tie it up. Right. And then the anticipation is, when can I pull this out? When are we going to have that first day we can play catch? Is it in March? Is it in April? What's it going to be? So there's an anticipation. But what filled the gap was what they used to call the hot stove league. All that talk about baseball. Who got traded? Are they changing the lineup? Who's the hot pitcher for next year? Blah, blah, blah. Football has totally superseded all of that. Can't remember baseball chatter like that in a long time, right? But there's football chatter, and football's filled up the calendar. But live football, real football, it goes away for a while, and then we get excited when it's back again come August.
Yeah, I mean, the combine literally starts in a couple of weeks. So, yeah, you're right. The calendar goes 12 months, 365 for sure. Let's get into this game a little bit, because every time I think about it, all I think is, well, the Rams are going to just dominate Cincinnati's offensive line, and that's going to be that. But the Bengals are still here, and they've still had this offensive line all year. So, like, what do you think is going to be in that matchup?
Well, I love how you posit it, because you nailed it, right? We're all watching the same thing. Let's be frank. Let's go back to Cincinnati, Tennessee in the playoffs. 9 sacks, I believe, that day.
Yep.
In Tennessee. And really, I think there were 2 more that got called back by penalty. So we're talking about a double-digit sack day. But the difference in everything is quarterback Joe Burrow never turned the ball over. Meaning there wasn't a strip sack in the pocket that Tennessee took advantage of, right? They didn't punch it free in the pile and Tennessee comes up with the football, and now they've stolen a possession from Cincinnati. Even when the sacks occurred, he never got ruffled. He took care of the football, whether they had to punt the ball away or whatever. Now they're still on their own terms. They're not playing on Tennessee's terms. That's going to be a big deal in this game as well, because as you noted, here comes that Rams defensive front, right? Here comes Aaron Donald. Here comes Leonard Floyd. Here comes the pass rush and the pressure. Will he take care of the ball again, as he has so far throughout his career and into the playoffs? He has. That's going to be the difference. And then when you flip it over, Stats, if Cincinnati's doing that and they're having their struggles moving the ball, as they did against Tennessee, will the Cincinnati defense continue to play at a high level and keep that game on even terms, so that maybe later on you can find the breakthrough Cincinnati has found throughout this playoff season?
Well, I think you're right about Burrow and the turnovers, because I look at Stafford and I feel like once a game, he just decides, I'm going to just drop back and chuck it up and see what happens. Like, he's going to give the defense an opportunity to take the ball away. Jaquiski Tartt just didn't hang on to it in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, the poor guy. I hope Jaquiski's not watching. I hope there's the one person who's not watching us do this, because that one is going to haunt him for a long, long time. Hopefully he'll have a chance for redemption, right? We've seen that with players throughout their careers. They have that play that everyone remembers, and later on something happens and they make that big play that allows them to get back on better terms, right? Where they can kind of make peace with the whole thing. I'm old enough to remember Jackie Smith with Dallas dropping the ball in the end zone from Roger Staubach, right? People have forgotten Jackie Smith was an all-pro, Hall of Fame tight end. You go to Canton, You see Jackie Smith's bust for the work he did in St. Louis all those years. But anyone who talks about Jackie Smith, that's the first thing that comes up, right? So we're hoping for Tart that doesn't happen. But to your point, if Tart comes up with the football, we're talking about San Francisco versus Cincinnati in the Super Bowl. That's what you're alluding to, and I think you're on target. Matthew Stafford and crew, you can't give them those extra opportunities. It's a very opportunistic Cincinnati team. They don't scare very many people by what they present on defense. But also, if you give them a chance to make a play, they do. And here's the other thing, stats. Turnovers by Cincinnati, if they do turn it over, this Cincinnati defense has done a phenomenal job all year at limiting the points given up after a turnover. Lou Anarumo, their defense coordinator, calls his group the firemen, and they've tamped out a lot of fires so far. So I'm eager to see how that plays out. Will Matthew Stafford give them an opportunity or two to take advantage of?
And I have a theory about the Rams, and you tell me if this is crazy. I just feel like they are wound so tight. Like if the Rams win the Super Bowl, I feel like the primary emotion they're going to feel is relief, right? Stafford's going to feel relief. McVay, I think, has talked openly about the changes that he's made from the last Super Bowl appearance to this Super Bowl appearance. Like they have all this pressure on them. Whereas Cincinnati, much like Joe Burrow, is just kind of like, hey, we're here. We think we're going to get it done. And not that they're playing with house money, but the teams are in such different places.
Great point. And let's take it from Cincinnati's perspective first. Most of us are talking about house money. This was a 10-7 team during the season, right? They didn't exactly run into the playoffs with great fanfare, although the win over Kansas City in week 16 or week 17 was a big one. We know that. But my point being 10-7 is not exactly an overwhelming, acclamation. Here they come, right? But they've played really well since that time. Joe Burrow, I think he and his team are riding that line of what you said, house money, but at the same time, full confidence that they're good enough to be there. They keep saying, we're not the underdog. I don't hear underdog. We're good enough to be here. We're good enough to win. But at the same time, they know the public sees them that way. And I think that allows them to relax a little. With the Rams, I think it's a split deal, stats. I do think that what you said is right on target. There will be an element of relief because think of all they've done. Les Snead, as the GM, has made every move possible so that our kids may not see the Rams have a first-round draft pick. Okay? But have those moves paid off? Well, you'd say Von Miller's playing pretty well down the stretch, right? The trade for Matthew Stafford, I think that's paid off in a big way. I'd say Jalen Ramsey's maybe the best corner in the league. That's paid off in a big way. So all those things have kicked in for them. But the bottom line is you traded for Stafford because Goff getting you to a Super Bowl wasn't good enough. So that's what you're talking about. Hey, you still have to win it now. You've gotten there, but Goff got there. Can you win it now if you're Matthew Stafford? Can you win it if you're the Rams? For Matthew Stafford, it might be a little bit of house money. He was in Detroit. They weren't sniffing a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He has come in, gotten with a good team, shown his wares, and off he goes. But I do think there will be some pure joy out of this for one reason. Sean McVay, after they lost to New England, Stat, you heard the conversations around the country. I don't know if he'll recover from this. He was totally out coached by Bill Belichick. Sean McVay, after the game, said, I over-prepared for the game. He was real open about it. I had a good friend who's a football coach of really good renown. He has told me time and time again since Super Bowl, Sean McVay will never be the same again. He got to him mentally. And I kept fighting him on that. I said, I don't think that's true. And we turned out it's not true. But to get over the hump, that's why I don't think it's going to be just pure relief. I think there'll be a lot of joy that Sean McVay not reinvented himself, but adjusted, found different ways, and brought another team back to the Super Bowl in really a short amount of time in the NFL.
Well, that's what I would be worried about, though, if I was a Rams fan. What if, let's say, Stafford turns it over early, Cincinnati gets up by a couple scores? I think that McVay is going to be in his head again, like, this can't happen again. Like, I can't lose another one of these. And maybe that's just my bias as someone who covers and roots for the Niners. Like, I'm rooting for that. I don't know. But
as a Niners, as a person who's covered with the Niners, that was the conversation before the championship game.
Yes.
That the Niners totally owned them and occupied rent-free space in the head, the hearts, the minds of the Rams. And then the way that game played out, though, I think really helps the Rams going into this one because they had to come from behind. They had to rally. They had to make this thing happen. Remember, you remember better than anyone. Wasn't it week 18 that the Rams were up 17?
Yes.
And lost that game? And that really caused some consternation when they saw the 49ers again in the NFC Championship. Oh, God, their fans like, oh, no. We can't be up 17 and win it.
Right.
For them to be able to come back from off the pace in this last one, overcome an error or two. Jaquaski Tart helped open the door, of course, but they stepped through it. So you got to give them big credit for that. I think that helps wash away a lot of that. I feel like Sean McVay in this situation is going to be fine. I really do. I just don't see where this is going to overwhelm him at this point. He's been there. He's done it. He's made the adjustments. Now it's time to just go ahead and turn this bad boy loose. This is what we came for. We made the moves. We got Stafford. We did this. Go play.
And I feel like a lot of teams do that, but you don't see that plan actually work too often. Like as a Niner fan, I think of the 94 Niners who loaded up in the first year of free agency, Richard Dent, Deion Sanders, and it worked, right? They got to the Super Bowl and they won it. We remember the Eagles dream team from a few years ago.
Team.
That was slightly less successful. But it'll be interesting to see if this actually pays off because the only way it's all worth it for the Rams is if they win a Super Bowl. Just getting there is not good enough.
Yeah, no disagreement on that one. But they knew that from the beginning. That's why Les Snead made those moves. He wasn't making them, hey, guys, we're doing this to get to the playoffs. We're doing this to win a Super Bowl. And we're either going to win a Super Bowl or I'm going to be out of a job. I mean, that's essentially what he's saying, right? And he was willing to step forward and put his chin out and do that with it, obviously, with the Kroenke management team saying, yes, go ahead and do that. He and Sean McVay with their plan. Yes, all of that was there. You're exactly right. They have to pay off in a Super Bowl. So the difference in this one is if Cincinnati loses, all we're going to talk about is, wow, look what they did and look what the future holds for them. If the Rams lose a Super Bowl, is exactly what you stated, Stats. They made every move under the sun, didn't get their goal. Can this work again? Has Von Miller still got the juice? All this with Stafford and crew. I mean, that's what it's going to turn into. But I will tell you this. I'm loving the matchup. I'm loving the contrast. I'm loving how two teams have gone about doing it different ways. And by the way, Duke Tobin may not be named the GM of Cincinnati, but he's the personnel guy that no one talks about. It wasn't just drafting Joe Burrow, was it? Look at all the other moves that have been made to make this team better. Some of them before Burrow got there, some of them with him, some of them since he got there. All those moves have been really, really good moves. Remember the name, folks, Duke Tobin. You can't find him listed as a GM in Cincinnati's org chart, but he's the guy who's doing the personnel for that club, and he does not get enough credit.
Yeah, so I mean, some of the free agent moves they've made. I mean, Trey Hendrickson, I kind of just thought, well, he's going to Cincinnati. That's probably not going to work out, which is a terrible thing to think because obviously it has. He's been fantastic for them.
But it's not an unusual thought because Cincinnati has not been a destination spot for free agents to go sign and make a difference. And it was just 2 years ago, this team won 2 football games. So I don't think that you're wrong for having that thought. The other thought I'm sure that crossed your mind was Trey Hendrickson had 13.5 sacks his last year in New Orleans. Is he really a 13.5 sack guy?
Right.
That was a big conversation piece. Was he benefiting from Cam Jordan being out there and getting all the attention, et cetera, et cetera? Well, he came back and showed he can get off the ball and get sacks on his own. And Sam Hubbard's not so bad on the other side either. So when you put it all together now, and here's the last thing. I had Cincinnati multiple times this year, Stats. Trey Hendrickson told our broadcast team point blank that he chose Cincinnati. This wasn't so much, hey, the best contract. He felt a vibe when he was there for a meeting with them and decided on that trip, this is where I want to be. And remember, they don't have all the amenities. Where did they practice last weekend with the snow in Cincinnati? They had to practice at the University of Cincinnati's indoor facility because Cincinnati doesn't have one. But he chose feel, climate, what he got from Zach Taylor, what he's feeling from Burrow and the rest of the guys there. And they almost had like one of those group things, him, Mike Hilton, a few others. Yeah, we're going to all sign together. And they did.
That kind of organizational structure that you're talking about, the not having the practice facility and the fact that they have, I think, the smallest scouting staff in the entire league.
They use their coaches a lot for scouting.
Yeah, that organizational structure that you're talking about, that I feel like it's kind of biasing me because I'm thinking like that structure doesn't win in the NFL. It hasn't won in the NFL. So my head is telling me to pick the Rams in this game. Where do you come down?
Boy, it's a major struggle because it's not so much the organizational part of it. They finally figured it out and hit. And remember, for all those years under Marvin Lewis, because everybody keeps talking about the Marvin Lewis, tenure involved, never won a playoff game. Yeah, but they went to playoffs 6 times.
Right.
Division titles during that time were always a factor. And I realize winning it all is what it's all about in the league. But that structure was working for them during that time. They were finding diamonds in the rough at times. For whatever you think about Vontaze Burfict, and I'm not a fan, so I'm not about to sit here and change my tune. They ended up taking a chance on him, and he paid off in a big way in terms of play, although I thought that he and Pac-Man Jones cost them in the playoff game against Pittsburgh. But bottom line is he gave them some significant play. They got him as an undrafted free agent when everyone else gave up on him in the draft. So they've made good moves along the way. So I'm not worried about that. But you're right, it's a different structure, small scouting staff. They ask their coaches to do a lot of work in terms of the draft and who you like as prospects. And right now, they're hitting pretty well. So I've seen Cincinnati more this year, in my coverage. I've not seen the Rams in terms of live coverage of a game, but I used to cover them a lot when I was at another network. I think this game is a toss-up game, and there's no home field advantage, even though the game's in Los Angeles. Super Bowls don't work that way, especially not for the Los Angeles teams.
Right.
Because plenty of people get in there who root for the other team. That's not a big deal for them. It's not like people from the Los Angeles franchises say, I'm not letting the visitors come in. I'm only going to give my tickets to someone rooting for my team. They just take the highest bidder. It's different in other places.
Absolutely. Well, Charles, we thank you very much for the time. Again, we appreciate it. Charles Davis, CBS Sports. You are jack of all trades and pretty much master of all of them too, Charles. So thanks for the time.
You're awfully kind. It's been a blast spending time with you, Stats. Look forward to seeing you in person.